What is going on, YouTube? In full transparency, I had a completely different video planned for today, but with everything that has taken place in LA over the last couple of days, and all throughout America for the last couple of months and years, I feel like it would be more appropriate to talk about something else. Specifically today, I would like to talk about 8 books written by Latin American authors. And yes, before you comment, I am aware that there are only 7 books here. The 8th book, unfortunately, I cannot find my copy of. But I specifically chose these 8 books because I think it'll help Americans to understand the human beings that our current administration is trying to convince us all are somehow a threat to our nation. Because while our nation is filled with immigrants from all over the world, it is overwhelmingly clear that this administration is only concerned about those from Latin America. And while I do have many things to say about this topic, this is, after all, a book and literature YouTube channel. And so that is why I've decided that the only appropriate thing to talk about today are books written by Latin American authors. Because I sincerely believe that reading these books can help us in this situation. But before I get into it, I do want you to know that I will be linking a few different articles in the description below for those who are maybe a little bit less informed about what is going on, or for those who maybe don't yet understand how ICE is violating human rights and why there is so much outrage from these raids. But again, we are here to talk about books. The beautiful thing about books is they allow us to travel through time, to live the lives and get into the minds of other people. And it is my belief that books, along with traveling and conversing with other people, can solve a majority of the issues in the world. And so with that in mind, I have picked 8 books that I think can help to bridge that gap. And before I even begin, I am sure I am missing a lot of great authors and great books just because I haven't read them before. And so if there are any books that you think that I left off on this list that you think other people should read, please put them in the comments. Before we highlight these individual books and authors, I do want to highlight my favorite aspects of Latin American literature. The genre that I believe best encapsulate Latin American literature is magical realism. Magical realism is defined as a literary genre and artistic style that blends realistic narratives with fantastical or magical elements, often without a clear distinction between them. So while a majority of the world is taking place in our regular reality, there are magical aspects to it. Another aspect that I find so fascinating is their usage of political history. Even when politics isn't a major part of the story, it always seems to be sprinkled in. And if you have followed me for any time or have read any of my work, you know that I love political aspects in literature. Another thing that Latin American authors do so well is this multi-generational storytelling. Now, this obviously isn't exclusive to Latin American literature, but it is something that I've seen in a lot of their works, providing this feeling of a generational bond. As a writer myself, I have absolutely no idea how they pull it off so successfully. Another thing that you see often explored in these novels are revolutions. And depending on the country of origin for these authors, that revolution varies. Some of these revolutions achieved independence, while others are coups that resulted in the exact opposite. And lastly, these books are often rich in philosophy and spirituality, each explored through the different lens of these different cultures. And so with all of that in mind, let's talk about the 8 books that I've chosen. The first book is The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. Allende was from Chile, and this book was inspired by the coup that took place in 1973. It was that coup that resulted in her fleeing the country. And this book is a beautiful exploration of what kind of generational trauma can arise from such events, as it is a multi-generational story that explores this wound through the years. And in a similar vein, we have our next book, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This book is easily one of the most famous Latin American works of all time. Marquez, who is from Colombia, wrote this story to kind of highlight the patterns that he was seeing within his own country, where there are revolutions, and then there are rises, and then falls, and new revolutions, and so on. Again, this book is multi-generational, it has magical realism, and it is a beautiful insight on the culture of Colombia. Next up, we have probably the most famous book on this list, The Alchemist. Its author, Paulo Coelho, is from Brazil, and this book is less about the Brazilian culture and more about the spirituality of Latin America, as it details probably the best spiritual journey that I have ever read. Even as a person who is deeply unreligious, this book spoke to me, and there is a reason why so many people consider it their favorite book. Next up, we have the short stories of Jorge Luis Borges. Borges, who is from Argentina, is easily the most philosophical on this list, and his works beautifully explore the Western influence through colonization on Latin America. I don't think I've ever read an author who can squeeze so much thought into such a short story. And even though today I'm talking about his short stories, he is also a poet, and his poetry is incredible. Next up, we have The Death of Artemio Cruz. Through this novel, Carlos Fuentes explores what led up to the Mexican Revolution, what happened during it, and what life was like afterward. And how, even after a successful revolution, life does not always turn out how you hoped it would. Because too often, power corrupts, even if that power is achieved with noble ideals. Next, we have The Savage Detectives by Roberto Bolaño. This book, without a doubt, is going to be the most challenging on this list, as it is very experimental in nature and told through a non-linear timeline. But again, it is a wonderful exploration of the ups and downs of Latin American history. Next, we have The Labyrinth of Solitude by Octavio Paz. Unlike the others, this is actually a collection of essays. These essays are an exploration of Mexican history and culture, specifically specifically as they relate to colonialism. The last book I actually don't have my physical copy of, and it might be a little controversial, but I do think that the book is just really good. That book is The Brief Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. And while I am aware that the author is problematic, I think that the book still deserves to be read. So maybe instead of buying the book new, you buy it used, or you find it online for free. I don't really care how you get it, but maybe that'll help you to deal with the fact that it is from a problematic author that you don't want to give money to. But regardless of who the author is, the story is a great exploration of what life is like for an immigrant coming from the Dominican Republic to America, while also exploring what life was like in the Dominican Republic and dealing with what life is like when a dictatorship ends. Because the reality is, it doesn't just magically get better. There is some sort of fallout. And like the other stories that we have talked about, those fallouts can be handed down through generations. And those traumas may lead to actions that are hard to explain if you do not understand those traumas. But anyway, feel free to just skip that book and read only the other 7. That's totally fine with me. And like I said at the beginning of this video, if there are any books that you think that I missed that belong on this list, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to read them. But that's all that I have for you guys today. I hope that I was able to tie everything in the same way that I had it tied in my mind. And if not, I apologize. I'll try better next time. Either way, if you're interested in videos like this, where I talk about current events and literature that can help you to understand them, let me know in the comments below, and make sure to hit subscribe. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.